totally the end of E3. You might come back.
Thank you.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Shag News Twitch channel again. It is June the 10th, E4 Day 2. We're here with the Wide World of Electronic Sports E4 edition. And here are our hosts, Asif Khan, Blake Morris. What's up, guys?
Hey! Holy shit. Look at this, Blake.
Look at this.
What have I brought? What did I do? I did it for Shaq News again.
You sure did. You did.
I incessantly DM'd this poor man until he decided to help us and come on our Twitch channel and celebrate video games.
If you poke him with a stick long enough, he'll eventually respond.
You broke that armor down.
It was a lot of Lola picks. But we have Slasher, Rod Breslau here. The number one esports video game consultant on Twitter and the internet. Right? I don't know if that's self-proclaimed or if Forbes has written an article about it yet.
No, you know what? It might have been self-proclaimed, but every journalist has just taken what I say and printed it without fact-checking or looking into it or anything. So now it's real.
Yeah, you like spoke it into existence.
Yeah, isn't that great? Isn't that great?
Like Muhammad Ali. I love it. Rod, it's great to have you here. We all follow you on Twitter. We use you as a source at Shaq News a lot because you break a lot of news.
You guys are welcome. You and all the other sites that just rip my Twitter feed to post on your websites. You're welcome for the ad. You're welcome for the SEO.
What ad revenue? Go to my site and find.
You guys are making millions of dollars a month, just like all the other media companies. Millions of dollars.
Go find the ad running on my site.
Oh man,
please. I know you're a great investigator. Go find the ad running on my site right now.
Millions.
But I hear and all those millions, all those internet monies. Yes. And I know you monetize your Twitter platform super well too. I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. I'm running ads all the time on my Twitter platform.
Every follower is like
$1. I got pre-rolls going every day, making bank.
What the hell is that's a great, you're a very proficient Twitter user. What the hell is a promoted tweet with a pre-roll ad? What even is that? Like, do they even know how to make money at Twitter, Rod?
Nope. No, they don't. But that is kind of why it's still like the best social media platform. They don't know what the fuck they're doing, meaning that it hasn't turned into Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah.
And because they don't know what they're doing, it's still like pretty good. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. There's like all types of fucked up shit on Twitter, but it's still the best so far.
Yeah, it's weird. I have this love-hate relationship with it because there's been so much there are Nazi accounts on there, white supremacist accounts on there that have been there for years,
and people other than the president.
Exactly. There was recently someone they recreated Trump tweets to see if Twitter would ban them, and they did get banned. So that was interesting. But yeah, like they just I feel like because it is the Wild West, Rod, you're right. Would you agree that the way that you've broken in, like you've really kind of crossed over from games journalism to traditional journalism as a consultant for all these different regular media outlets? I call it Rod explains video games to old people. But that segment that you've done on Fox and all sorts of things, would you attribute your explosion on Twitter to that success?
It's definitely helped because Twitter is like the main medium for media and journalists around the world for like mainstream. Twitter is still like the platform for journalists. Twitter is the platform for publishers. So I focus a lot of attention. I like Twitter better than like Instagram or God forbid, like Facebook or something. And I'm not like 12 years old, so I don't use TikTok either. So like Twitter is definitely where I've kind of, focused all my efforts. And as the platform has grown to be, worldwide in a larger way, it's been very useful to take like the esports gaming insular community and make it a larger thing. And I've honestly, even before Twitter, though, I've spent so much of my career and my life convincing executives at different media companies to do video games. Like I probably spent more time explaining to an executive of why they need to cover esports or why they need to cover video games than actually covering the fucking esport or video game at the publisher for where I was.
And the argument you were making, was it a revenue argument? Was it a total addressable market argument? When you were successful in getting them to do it, what was the argument that worked for them? Because they're very metric driven, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of the same argument repeated over the years. We're really early on in like 2012. I had to convince CBS Interactive, which owns GameSpot, that they needed to do esports. And back then, esports was already. I mean, honestly, since like 2009, 2010, when Twitch was first blowing up, and when StarCraft 2 became huge, it got like significantly easier than it previously was. I mean, I've been in esports since like 2000. I've been playing Quake or whatever since 1998. So I've been playing these games for a really long time. And esports has always been a thing for a while. But obviously, in the new era, since, with social media and streaming and all these new games coming out, it did get a lot easier to convince publishers, and they needed to do it. It wasn't something that they could ignore anymore. The entire culture around watching other people play video games was becoming ever increasingly more mainstream. And, especially to a lot of video game journalists, people were taking the word of streamers, and people were more interested in watching tournaments than they were reading stuff online. So it became, easier to sell the industry and what was going on earlier on. And then as things have progressed over time, I'm taking that same premise to The Score and then ESPN in 2016. Like it became harder because I was going like up the ladder of different media corporations that needed to be convinced. Like GameSpot had already been around for a long time, but it was convincing GameSpot to run an esports section. But then when I got to The Score, they were a sports media company, and I didn't convince them to do video games. And then by the time I got to ESPN, they're like the biggest sports media company in the world, and they have an incredibly insane bureaucracy inside that company, which is also owned by Disney, of like 5,000 people. And convincing them to do esports is like more than just convincing them to do video games, because they had the whole bureaucratic thing within the company. But so the messaging has been pretty similar over the years. The difficulty has been ramped up, but as esports has grown, it also became easier to just be like, hey, look how many people are watching, these 15 different games. You have to do this. Like you're missing the boat. This is the new wave of the internet. If you're not doing it, you're fucking up. That's basically what it came down to. If you're not doing this, you're fucking up. You need to do this right now.
And that took like that happened over like 4 years. Like 2012, you're like, here's why. By 2016, you're like, hey, idiot. And I think that makes sense when you look at the arc of esports. Like you think about the international and how it grew every year during that period, and like all these other examples of leagues that popped off during that period. I'm curious though. You said you started in Quake. Was it Quake 3 that you were playing competitively?
No. Do not disrespect me.
What? Sorry, what were you saying? Sorry, what were you?
I play the left out child. All right, I am a Quake 2 player.
Okay,
all of
right.
the
My man. Yeah.
All of the. Well, then
We're gonna say Unreal.
Do not even disrespect me further, okay? It's saying that I played Quake 3. That's fine. Quake 3 is a legendary game.
It happened.
Do not put me in the same level or name as Unreal Tournament, okay? That game will never be close to the magic that is Quake. Never was, never has been, never will be.
This Rod speaking.
You need to clip that for our audience, by the way, because our audience is our audience always has that argument: Quake or Unreal, and
Shack News
built as a Quake site.
So we we understand this argument quite a bit. This happened on our forum. It's an argument older than time, but you have said the correct answer.
Yes.
Quake is
Yeah,
better
of,
than
of
UT.
course, man. I remember Shaky S. Back with Hui way back in the day. That was the dedicated. Shaky S was the main Quake website on the internet, along with Access Reality. So it's been Shaq has a huge history in Quake. Thankfully, I'm sure your fans understand who is. But we played. Yeah, I played the reject game. Okay, if all the old school people played Quake World. And when the new Quakes came out, they stuck with Quake World or NetQuake or Quake 1. And if you really wanted to go pro and play the best Quake, you went to Quake 3. All of us idiots stayed with Quake 2 because I'm an insane person. And that was the game that I grew up with. And I didn't want to switch. Yeah. I missed Quake World and I didn't want to go to Quake 3. So I played Quake 2 for 10 years. And that's always going to be my baby.
I'm with you, man. That was my special. That was the game, the Quake game that I played the most multiplayer because I had a fast internet connection at the time.
Oh, you were an LPB, weren't you?
Yeah, these were our high school got a T1 connection. It was that was a come to Jesus moment for a lot of us as Quake players. And that's awesome though. No, I feel you. I didn't mean any disrespect. I just, when you said 98, I was like, which Quake was that?
December 99 was Quake.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. My apologies. I feel like there's probably some sort of long read about this on shacknews.com.
The issue was that I started playing online games with Doom 2 over TCP/IP with a friend from middle school, but most of my early online competition or online experience was in Warcraft 2 over Kali, and then that was heavily into Brood War over Battle.net. I spent most of my first years playing Brood War over Battle.net, and I skipped Quake World, and I didn't get to experience Quake 1 or Quake World at all because I was playing Warcraft 2 and Brood War so much online. So then when I eventually switched over to first-person shooters, Quake 2 was the newest Quake, and then I had I played on a Macintosh. I played on a fucking iMac back then, and with a puck mouse. And so I couldn't.
Mouse.
Wow. I did have a one button mouse, and I couldn't even run Quake 3. That was part of it because I ran Quake 2 in software mode in 400 by 320 or whatever shitty ass graphics that I had just to run the thing. So I couldn't play Quake 3, and I missed out on that whole thing.
Damn. Playing on an iMac with that puck. Rod, I feel your pain, man.
I was a fucking god, okay? I was a fucking god in software mode on an iMac with a puck mouse. I was shitting on kids, and I had 150 ping. Shitting on kids.
Did you play StarCraft and Brood War on the iMac as well? I had a friend who tried to do that. Holding command and then clicking to simulate the right click.
Mm-hmm.
That was wild.
I was actually in the first ever Macintosh gaming clan. We had channel Mac on Battle.net. And that was our clan tag. We would only accept people that had Apple computers.
Wow. This is awesome. I had no idea about any of this, Rod. So this is all great information for our community, I think. One thing that I think a lot of people know you for is your filthy leaks. And you're really good at it. Here's a question. You don't have to answer it. I don't mean any offense. You don't break any embargoes, right?
No, I don't even take them anymore.
Yeah, you don't even sign embargo.
Nope.
But someone who's talking to you, your anonymous source, whoever, is probably breaking embargoes, right?
And NDAs, yes.
That's pretty sweet. That's a pretty sweet setup you got there.
I mean, most of the biggest stories that I'm breaking are new games, and those are heavily NDA'd, and those are heavily embargoed. Of course, there's announcements for all types of shit: new leagues, new games, new teams, new player signings, players going to different teams, all that types of stuff. But generally, a lot of people are under NDA, and a lot of people are under embargo. and I will, I make sure to protect my sources. I've never had a source compromise in 20 years of reporting on anything, and I will make sure that no one will ever be in danger of anything. I've pissed off pretty much every major publisher and developer that you could think of in the competitive gaming world. Like, I don't spend too much time covering like Nintendo or,
Sure.
Sony and Microsoft. I don't really give a shit so much, but all the usual suspects, the Blizzards and Riots and Valves, have at one time been extremely mad at me or another, usually multiple times over my career.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop you from your ability to cover them. That's what I think's great. Is like, yeah, sure, you may be blacklisted by all of them, but you're still breaking news on all of their games.
Like, I mean, I used to take embargoes all the time from not just publishers, but like the tournament organizers and but like I would always find out like another way besides the embargo that eventually I was just like, no, I'm not taking your embargo. I'm going to find out your news anyway. I'm sorry that I'm going to have to report it on it and make a leak your really important news that you want to send me beforehand, but you can keep your embargo. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive, and as someone who sits there agreeing to embargoes when I do have them in front of me, I admire your ability to not have to live in a world with them.
Yeah,
and I think you've like really thrived off of it. So I think there's two schools of thought in I think games press about you. Some of you, there's that internet leaky boy nonsense, that people call you. But like I said, I just kind of think it's smart. You're not taking any risk, and the people leaking it don't seem to be taking any risk because you're very good about keeping your sources anonymous.
Yes, of course. I have to protect my sources. And these are stories where, like, if I'm breaking a new game that's being released, or I'm talking about like a player signing to another team, it's okay to have anonymous sources because this is pretty standard, especially from the sports industry. Every time a player moves to a new team, there's no source, being and I don't have to compromise my sources. If I remember doing like a much more serious story, I know that I need to have named sources on the docket. But for the type of work that I usually do, having anonymous sources is standard, and it is okay. You know who gets almost as or more mad at me than the publishers, the developers, or the team owners?
Who?
Other journalists.
Yeah.
Because people like you who are signing the embargoes, like, they end up like spending like a whole like month like working with the publisher or working with the agency to like do this big announcement and do this like exclusive interview, and then like I'll come out like a day before or even like hours before the thing they've been working on for forever, and I'll just like release the entire thing and more information than they even got that they were working with whoever it was, and then they'll DM me and be like, dude, you just like fucked my whole story up. I spent all this time doing all this work. Now I'm just like, man, that sucks. That sucks.
Rod, you've never got that DM from me.
That is true.
No, if that happens, I mean, that's you doing you, man.
Like, what if Shaq News getting exclusive? Then Rod's gonna just be like, "Oh, I got the hot scoop, yo."
We've been scooped by IGN, but we've never like, if it's Rod, like, it's not a big deal. Like, you're just you. I mean, you're not like $1 million backed corporation like IGN or CBS or anything like that.
I mean, there may have been a time where we agreed to some news embargo and you broke that news, right? There may have been some Blizzard news or something, but I don't take offense to the 15 minutes it took us to write up some news story. You know what I mean? And most of the time, Rod, that's what you're doing is breaking news, right? But what you're talking about are these some of these larger media outlets that will spend a lot of time on these, a Game Informer cover or something. Like, I can see them being really pissed at you.
I mean, I am kind of like incentivized because I kind of find it really hilarious that me, guy on internet without backing, at least right now, of any major organization. I have no help. I have no editors. I don't have other journalists that can work with me on a story, and I will break it before IGN or The Verge or Polygon or whatever, and I get to make like full-time journalists and editors really upset, and that like makes me happy. I know that's kind of like vindictive and kind of
What did they ever
insane.
do to you? Huh? What did they ever do to you? They're just out there trying to make a living.
I know.
You're just crushing their spirits.
Well, you know what? Maybe they shouldn't agree to embargoes either. A bunch of hacks.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing in recent years, we have kind of pivoted. A lot of our content is not dependent on embargoes.
No, that's true. Except for review coverage.
Yeah. That's why I don't review.
Yeah, I'm also not too much into that. Like, I don't review games.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it really doesn't like matter too much. And then there are other things like Valorant had their whole like invitational list. People that remember the whole streamer thing where people got to play the game and show off the game. Like, I refused to sign the NDA, so I couldn't get to play the game. And I decided to just leak all the details about it instead, because I knew I was going to find out everything about the game for people who were playing the game, and I wouldn't need to sign the NDA in the first place. So
yeah. Right. So do you have new hot Valorant scoops for us?
Not Valorant, but a company that is on the docket to make a big announcement this week. I do know of an unannounced game that is in the works that I'm going to report on. Yes.
So we should tune into
your
Twitter feed sometime.
Drop
this
it
week.
now.
Twitter.com/slasher.
Drop it now. Be fearless.
Nope.
At Slasher.
But there is a new game that is in my, which will be revealed soon.
In your world. So is it that it's that Riot Games fighter, isn't it?
I can say it's not the Riot Games fighter.
Okay. What do you think of that?
So we know what it's not.
Do you think that has potential?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
can't wait.
That I think is coming at a really interesting time. If it has netcode that isn't complete crap,
I mean that's like the whole. It's like one of the major reasons that it's going to be good. It's the creators of GGPO are working on the game. The founders of Evo, like there couldn't be a better group of guys and people working on the game from the top end to make it like.
Is it a remaster of Rise of the Robots?
The way it is right now, I mean, you need a game with good netcode right now, because otherwise, nobody's playing locally at the moment, and probably no one's going to be playing locally for at least a year. So, you need something with good netcode, and I feel like whatever Riot's got cooked up, like that's going to be the standard.
No, I mean it's definitely a very high priority for Riot to get the netcode working, as evidenced by the netcode being absolutely fucking garbage for just about every fighter in the world, with a few exceptions. I mean, everything that's happening around Corona and with Evo's lineup has really, and especially Smash Brothers and Nintendo, has really showcased just how truly fucking garbage the netcode for fighting games are, especially when you compare it to like first-person shooters, which have had so many years to innovate in this way for how to do things. That like the netcode is going to be a seriously important aspect of Riot's fighting game.
Are you surprised that Capcom's going forward with the Capcom Pro Tour this year, given how garbage the netcode for Street Fighter has been for like the last couple years?
I mean, what do you expect them to admit, that the netcode is bad or something? I mean, really, like the publishers. Nintendo is an anomaly because they just don't give a shit about anything. So like it's not surprising that like that's not going forward, because you don't expect Nintendo to support jack shit for their, but for like Capcom or like Namco with Tekken or whatever, they support their game. They're not going to admit to their community that, oh well, we fucked up with 6 frames of lag and shit with our game. So like they don't really have any choice but to continue to support their game in whatever capacity that they can. So it's not really surprising that the Capcom Pro Tour will be continuing in this fashion.
Have you had a chance to look at viewership of online fighting game tournaments and compare them to offline, and just see if it's are people? Because I can tell you as an FGC fan, I'm not watching online Smash tournaments all weekend, Rod. They take forever and they're awful. So, like, do you think have you looked at it, or do you think Evo is going to be a good data point for that?
Honestly, I'm waiting for Evo. Evo will be the defining data point for this. I mean, I've done a ton of interviews over the last few months, and spoken a lot about how, during coronavirus, esports is such a bright spot because the industry is built on the internet, and it is the only real competitive thing that you can do in the world because it is based on the internet and you can play people from around the world online. But it has significantly hurt the fighting game community. And I really haven't spoken a lot about that, but the fighting game community, because the entire industry is built on homegrown events and is built on DIY events and is built on locals, and that is a core part of the competitive structure of the FGC. Not having local events has really hurt the FGC. It is not like other esports that have been able to continue on or even have like showcase moments with no other major sports on to show, like, watch esports because nothing else is on. The FGC has really been hurting a lot. So not only has it lost, not only is the netcode garbage and that affects running an online tournament, it's taken the heart and soul out of how the FGC is run normally, and it's created really a bad atmosphere for the current FGC. But considering Evo is the biggest fighting game tournament in the world, and they're trying to put as much thought and process behind the tournament and organization with the games to do it, I will watch Evo online the entire weekend. I think it'll be a decent showing to see how many people will tune in to see online fighting games.
I mean, is there anything that's going to be playable online that isn't going to just turn into kind of a clusterfuck, you think, at all? And in the fighting game community, is there any bright light there at all?
Tekken kind of decent.
I mean, I've played Tekken online with my friends, but I'm not a pro gamer. I don't know what I'm looking for as far as flag or anything.
I'm interested to see if there's a resurgence in Killer Instinct and how good their netcode has been and how excited that base is to be back. And they're back only because of it's online now. I would definitely want to see how that goes.
Yeah, I think the Evo lineup is so vastly different because of the online. A lot of titles like Killer Instinct will probably do really well because they did have some focus online. But when it comes to the big ones, do I think anything good is going to happen for Smash? I think Street Fighter will be okay. I feel like Street Fighter and Tekken will be okay. I think the NRS netcode is pretty good. It's solid.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Mortal Kombat will be all right.
Yeah. I can see that.
It's just, I haven't heard good things about Dragon Ball code.
Yeah,
so
that's going to be bad.
That's
going to be bad.
Yeah, so I don't know. I can tell you, when I see those hiccups in a fighting game tournament, I tend to tune out a little bit. I know the players aren't; they're frustrated by that, and that leads to. I don't know if you've been paying attention to at least in the Smash scene. MK Leo was on fire going into the shutdown. So it's been interesting to see him not place in any of these online tournaments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really,
completely. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, in a lot of games in esports, the difference between there are people that are known as onliners, and that can play really well online, but when they go to a tournament, they can't do for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's nerves. Sometimes they're not used to the crowds. Sometimes they just can't handle it. And then there are players that are really good in person, but that can't do shit online because the game is just not the same. The timings are not the same. You can't do the same moves in the same order. You can't do the same combos. You just can't perform in the same way. So really, fighting games, this problem affects fighting games more than it does probably any other competitive game genre. Like first-person shooters, it definitely is effective, but really fighting games are the worst in this type of problem.
Yeah, I mean, like Rocket League is thriving right now. When you look at player count or viewership on RLCS, like there's, like you said, for the entire esports pie, it grew during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like every game really has done really well. Like League of Legends was hitting really great numbers. Counter-Strike was breaking concurrent viewer count and concurrent player numbers during the pandemic. Rocket League, as you mentioned, was doing really good. And then of course sim racing like took over the mainstream moment with iRacing and NASCAR and Formula One. So like everything in competitive gaming was doing great except for fighting games, which took a really huge hit.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Asa.
No, go ahead.
Is there something that's lost though in not having all the international players all get together in one venue? Like now everybody's kind of like stuck in their own region and they kind of have to play amongst themselves on the internet just because you can't really connect to a player from Japan, for example. Like, what games are hurt the most by not being able to like just play internationally? And I'm thinking something like Overwatch League, where now suddenly like NA and EU and like China all have to play amongst each other. Like, I sort of trailed off there. Sorry about that, but
I would say, you're definitely right. I mean, as much as I've spoken about how esports has had a really good opportunity to showcase itself, obviously it's still lost a lot. I mean, all the stadium events that we've had over the years, which are really ramping up in terms of excitement of bringing like the online esport experience to a stadium full of 20,000 screaming fans, which then shines through to the audience at home. Like that is all lost. And as you mentioned, you're losing the international competition because you can't have LANs with everyone in person. And now you're having these regional tournaments. It does feel like that Counter-Strike and Dota are probably hurt the most because those are the games under Valve that have the most amount of third-party in-person tournaments. Overwatch League is probably next, and as you mentioned, it has those issues, but the regional tournaments have actually gone like pretty well. Even with the like that problem does exist, but having the Asian region and the North American region separate, the games and matches have still been pretty good, and it hasn't been too bad. And then you have things like League of Legends, and Overwatch League initially was going to be like this because all the international players were already in America. They could still keep doing their normal matches because all the players were here. Overwatch League was kind of adversely affected because 5 of the franchises are Chinese organizations, and there are a significant amount of Chinese players in the Overwatch League. And of course, with the virus originating, in China, it affected like a larger portion of the professional player base than the other games. And I think that probably hurt the league more often than not. Like if the entire league, because in like League of Legends, the LPL is totally separate from the LCS and the LEC, so they don't have to lose out on a portion of the teams or players. If the Overwatch League was separate, like the LCS, LEC, and LPL, it probably would have been less impactful in terms of the hurting and the region stuff.
I remember Vancouver lost their roster like overnight. Like the entire, like everybody from China was just gone, just one night. Is this something that you think the Overwatch League and that teams can kind of recover from next season? They'll have a more domestic roster. They'll be able to try people out and be able to won't be as adversely affected by a sudden second wave or third wave of Corona that requires everyone to go back online.
I mean, Activision Blizzard's leagues are in a precarious position. They are like everything that they're trying to do with localization on top of franchising, it is what is impacting everything so hard. Yep. I mean, in all their plans, they planned on local homestands for all of their different cities between Call of Duty and Overwatch League, and they have to scrap all of that stuff. For LCS and LEC, that is all done, in the studio. And LPL is the one that was most affected, but because they've recovered faster, they've been able to try to get LPL back in action in a localized way, just without fans, faster than everybody else. Overwatch League and Call of Duty, they're going to have all these problems because it is the localization is the main selling point of the entire league to begin with. So to have the main selling point be so adversely affected by the coronavirus situation is really hurting all of their plans. Not to mention, especially for Overwatch League, a significant portion of the professional player base is Korean and Chinese, and all of those players, Korea was affected quite heavily for this too. All those players wanted to go home, be with their families, be safe there, and that has caused a lot of strain too. So at least specifically Overwatch League has had to deal with more multitudes of issues than the other leagues have. The only bright spot I think for the Overwatch League is they just did the May Melee, which was a tournament format instead of the seasonal format, and it ended up being actually quite successful. And the reason for this is, if anyone here watches traditional sports, is that, and I'm not watching 162 baseball games before October comes. I don't fucking care. Okay, I barely care about the first 60 games of the NBA season.
Yeah.
And
that many baseball games is gonna probably leave you comatose.
I don't know. I understand that what Activision Blizzard was trying to do, and especially what Riot is trying to do. They're trying to have a much more American style seasonal format with many games played over the regular season, which feeds into the postseason. But traditional esports, one of the huge advantages and success of traditional esports is that they're all tournaments. And that the tournament format of having a tournament over 4 days with a bracket or groups or whatever has always proven to be extremely interesting and entertaining. And because you have all the best players playing in a more tightly packed schedule, all the matches really, really mean something. There's no games that are just whatever, and you don't have to tune in for it. And because the coronavirus situation has forced the league to switch up the format, their experimental tournament format has ended up being more exciting than the actual LAN tournaments that they had for the regular season, because they're trying to copy an American sports format, which is kind of boring. The American traditional sports format of having so many games over a regular season into the playoffs is not really exciting in 2020. I mean, you don't need 162 games in baseball. You don't even really need 82 games in basketball. And having 16 games in football was one of the major reasons why the NFL was so popular to begin with, because every single game matters. And there's only one game a week, and it all really matters a lot. Yeah. And, I understand why esports is going the franchising route and trying to adopt more of the American sports route, but they adopted something that is actually going out of favor with the younger sports fan in America. And now, since they had to go back to the more normal esports way, and it ended up being better.
So here's a question for you, Rod, regarding Overwatch League and COD Pro League, or whatever they're calling it now. If you're someone who's buying an expansion team in one of these leagues, how big of a buster are you? Or are you a buster?
I mean, okay, given the current state of you can't really argue that it's more valuable to buy an Overwatch League team at 30 million than it is to buy a League of Legends team at 10 million, when League of Legends is the biggest game in the world, and League of Legends is vastly more popular as a game, vastly more popular in terms of viewership watching the esport, and vastly more people probably buying merchandise and everything related to the team. So if you're just comparing the numbers, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for why people bought into Activision Blizzard's leagues compared to the other franchise league, which is way, way bigger and was, was 3 times less the amount of money to buy in.
And already had a proven viewership and player base.
Like all of those things. However, okay, here I'm going to give Activision Blizzard a little bit of credit. Just a little bit of credit, but you got to understand that the first franchises to buy into the Overwatch League to really like kick things off were all buddies of Bobby Kotick. The Wilpons of the Mets, Kraft at the Patriots, and Rams owner. I'm blanking out on the Rams owner, but they're all buddies of Bobby Kotick. So the biggest investors to the Activision Blizzard Overwatch League and Call of Duty League were people that are billionaires that have more money than God that are paying like one of their NFL players for 1 year of salary. Giving Activision Blizzard $25 million is like nothing. It's like literally zero. They probably don't even realize that they spent the money.
So these are like tax shelters essentially for billionaires.
Kinda, yeah.
Because like they're never gonna make the $30 million.
No. I mean, they're looking at it as a long-term bet. This is where a little bit of the credit I was gonna give them. They are trying to build a long-term future. All of the owners that bought in, even the ones that are not named Kraft or Wilpon, understood that no one was going to be making the money soon, and they're not going to be recuperating $20 million anytime in the near future. All of this investment was a long-term bet that this league and esports in general is going to be successful 5 or 10 years from now. And that by then, the brands themselves will be as valuable for as much as they spent the initial fee to buy in. And or they would have, profitable businesses running by then to at least be making them money in the long term. And to be able to work directly with a publisher, because the only other publisher that was doing this is Riot Games. This opportunity does not exist in the Valve ecosystem. This opportunity does not exist really within the Epic ecosystem of Fortnite or Rocket League. So the only way to do this as an outside investor was going to be with Activision Blizzard. And a lot of the esports organizations that run independently, like a Cloud9 or an Immortals, who do have teams within the Activision Blizzard ecosystem, they're all running on venture capital. They're all running on money from the outside. These are not profitable organizations. For as much as the Forbes net worth list might say the Cloud9 is worth $500 million or whatever, they're not making any money in terms of like a profit. So
Rod, Uber's worth billions of dollars. They don't make any money.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know the tech world. Okay, I come from the tech world. I know no one's making any money on anything, and just like
the stonks go up, money printer go burr, right?
I don't know. I'm just curious. Like, do you think Overwatch 2 will stimulate the Overwatch League in any sort of significant way? Do you think that might be a chance to sort of turn things around there?
Better hope it will.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what do you?
More in the short term, here the elimination of hero pools should benefit it a little bit, right?
A little bit. Like Overwatch 2 is more important than the hero pool. I mean, Overwatch has a lot of problems. I think a lot of people don't understand that so many of the issues for Overwatch League is not Overwatch League. In all seriousness, the sales team for Overwatch League has done an incredible job. They got Twitch to pay them $90 million for the first 2 years of Overwatch League. They got fucking Google to pay them $150 million. That also included Activision using Google's services for the cloud and all that, which is probably more important than the media rights to Call of Duty or Overwatch. But the sales team has been able to sell the media rights for way more than any other game not named League of Legends. So as much as people want to tout Counter-Strike being a huge game and like the world's biggest first-person shooter, which it is, there's Counter-Strike media rights aren't being sold for $90 or $150 million. And on top of that, the Activision Blizzard sales team sold multiple non-endemic, like blue chip sponsorship, title sponsorships for the Overwatch League. So for everyone hating on the Overwatch League, for all the fucked upness of the Overwatch League, the Overwatch League esports has actually done really well. The problem with Overwatch League in a larger way is Overwatch the video game. Overwatch the video game being in such a screwed up state in a lot of different ways is the cascading issue for why Overwatch is in a precarious situation that it's in, partially due to the balance, which is why we are in this like bizarro world with hero pools and then just not knowing how to balance the game. That is a major issue that has been there since the beta. And then, as you mentioned, like Overwatch 2, they really need Overwatch 2 to bring back the hype for the game. But from everything that even Blizzard has said, the focus of Overwatch 2 is single player. The focus of Overwatch 2 is the story mode. The focus of Overwatch 2 is not the competitive aspect of the game. So for everyone like hoping that Overwatch 2 is going to magically fix a lot of the longer term issues for Overwatch, I would not hold your breath for that to happen. Overwatch 2 coming out, like the marketing cycle and the promotional cycle and all the money that Blizzard is going to put behind the game is going to be huge for the franchise and the title as a whole. I just don't know if it's going to be able to fix any of the underlying issues which have played the game for a long time.
Do you know when it's coming out? Did they leak that to you?
Did they leak that to me?
You know, the people over there.
Yeah, people. No, I am not. I am not sure yet.
Damn.
I wonder if that's just part of that marketing cycle you mentioned, because to me, one of the reasons Blizzard, in fact, the reason that they've really kind of hammered on the single player aspect of that game is because that's what a lot of players asked for in Overwatch 1. Like, you create all these backstories about the heroes, and they're really meaningless without a story mode to explore them. So maybe do you think that could be part of the marketing cycle? Like, hey, here, yes, you're getting your campaign, and here's about that, and maybe they'll talk about the competitive aspect of it later?
Really, this is what they should be doing. Everything that they're doing with Overwatch 2 is realistically what Blizzard should be doing. And if you look at it at a more macro perspective, is indicative of the problems that the game has had as a multiplayer game. The game that is Overwatch was supposed to be an MMO called Titan, and it was not supposed to be a competitive multiplayer 6v6 Team Fortress like remake type of game. That was not what the game was supposed to be. And you know, you can see, like, as evident by like the Overwatch subreddit, or like the Overwatch like Twitter account, a lot of people still to this day do not give a shit or even know that Overwatch League is a thing or that Overwatch esports even exists.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many people that play Overwatch because of the characters and because of the world building. And that is really why people play. They're attached to the story that Blizzard has created for Overwatch, which is great. And in a lot of ways, Overwatch has been able to capture a more casual player base than something like Valorant has so far, which is a lot more hardcore and a lot more serious, I think, in a lot of ways. Overwatch has done a great job to bring in the casual fan base. And if anything, really like focusing on story mode and focusing on like building out the world is what Blizzard should be doing for Overwatch for the community that exists. But that community that exists shows why the esport is struggling. Even several years into Overwatch League now, that we're in, and like we're 4 or 5 years into the competitive aspect. Overwatch is a competitive multiplayer, very difficult at a high level game, and there's still tens of thousands of people that don't know esports exist and that don't give a shit about the competitive aspect of the game. And that is the larger problem that Blizzard has. So Blizzard is catering to who they should be catering to. Unfortunately, that is not like helping the actual game.
So here's the thing. Blizzard with Overwatch kind of dug their own grave because they broke their cycle. Blizzard, since Warcraft 1, has always created, like, their stories are fine usually, but like, if anything, the stories are a gateway to their game's multiplayer. Like, you learn how to play Warcraft 2 by messing around in the single player maps and gaining access to those advanced units and advanced strategies as the campaign kind of meets them out. And then this is at least what I did anecdotally, from Warcraft 2 to StarCraft to Warcraft 3. I would go through the campaign and I would take the skills I learned in multiplayer kind of as my base. And without that, like, I'm not really, I'll be honest, I don't really follow the esports scene. And Overwatch for me held zero appeal because I was interested in the character backstories, the videos, but without a mode to get to know them, I don't really care about them other than as a vehicle for gameplay systems.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably relatively true, though. I mean, I don't know. Like, World of Warcraft is, their hit game, and it's, it is an MMO. It's based on the multiplayer format, but a lot of it is like the world building that Warcraft had for so many years beforehand. Diablo is still more. Diablo's not really a competitive game, and Diablo's known, like, the game that you play, Diablo, was pretty similar to the online world when you went into it. And StarCraft is kind of the anomaly here. I mean, really, StarCraft took off because of the story and because of, like, it was the original Starship Troopers, in terms of, well, I guess Warhammer technically, but we're not going to mention that. Them ripping off the whole thing.
Twice.
But like, people, a lot of people identified with the story. It just happened to become like an esport inside of Korea, like, while this is all happening, and it wasn't really planned or anything by Blizzard. Like, Overwatch is the first time they tried to make a game that was intended to be competitive, but like, it came at the ashes of a MMO. Like, the original ideas and all of the concepts for Overwatch was Titan. It was never intended to be an esport. And I think, like, a lot of those issues you can see after.
Was StarCraft 2 not built with the Korean esports?
Oh, no,
demographic in
sure.
mind?
No, definitely. But you gotta say, the StarCraft 2 storyline, maybe not incredible, but pretty good. I think
No.
Metzen did it wasn't awful. I think he did a solid, a decent. What am I? Is it terrible?
I mean, for the
It's
era,
terrible. It's terrible.
like, for the time, I think for the time, that's kind of like what you got with video games in a lot of ways. Like, so I don't think it, like, held up very well.
Well, I mean, not to go off on a complete tangent, but he kind of undid all the character building he did with StarCraft 1. Like, Kerrigan and Raynor was never a love story, but that's neither here nor there. I guess the synergy I was talking about in their games is, like, for example, you're right. In Diablo, online, solo, it's the same effort, but online kind of expands the possibilities you had in single player. Like, hey, instead of running Mephisto yourself, you get a bunch of buddies and do it faster and more often. So I guess I'm more interested in Overwatch 2 because of the single player mode, and I guess that could be a gateway for a lot of people, right? Like, if you're a fan of Blizzard games, you play the story and then you're like, oh, there's multiplayer, oh, there's esports, there's a league. Like, maybe that could be a gateway for more people than Overwatch 1 was. Of course, that's just speculation at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, that is what they're trying to.
Mm-hmm.
Just feels sort of divisive to me. I mean, you take a game that's all about the competitive multiplayer and the sequel switches focus away from that. I mean, so many people are gonna be dismayed by that, like, initially, without even taking a look at the game.
But
I mean, if it still has
don't even know what it is.
but like, this is still the same conglomerate that makes COD every year, and sometimes they put COD with a campaign, sometimes they don't. But it always has its multiplayer there, and you don't have to play the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if that's what Overwatch 2 is, I don't think it runs the risk of disenfranchising anyone. It's just going to introduce more people to it. Yeah. I'm more interested in it because of it.
It'll be a net game, I think.
I think it's a net game.
David's point, I don't think I've touched Overwatch in like 6 months, but if Overwatch 2 comes with a story, I'll play it.
Yeah,
I'm interested in it.
I had to write a story about, they had a fasting and they they have 2 fasting sprays
Mhm.
that they added right around the end of Ramadan. So I jumped into Overwatch specifically for that. But yeah, that was like the first time in like, I don't know, 8 months for me.
I mean, I'm not the normal person. Like, I've been playing Overwatch since the beta. I still don't know what the fuck the story's about. I don't know what's going. I know the
I don't think
Omnics
Blizzard
are
did
like
either until they
Omnics are
committed
like
to
the slaves rebelling against like the police or whatever, and the police are maybe good. Police are good guys or Blizzard or some shit. I don't fucking know. Something's that like, but I'm not like a normal person. I do not care.
Oh, we got to run that headline. The police are good guys, says Slasher.
I mean,
Breaking news.
Blizzard kind of made the cops good in Overwatch, right?
Yeah, they have. But that's the thing. Like, that's another interesting point. And again, not to go off on a tangent, but like, it's really weird to start a story in a lot of ways with a sequel, which, you know, like, because really they could kind of ignore most of what they had in Overwatch 1 because there was technically no story. They're just characters, and I guess there's a comic book or something. I have no idea.
No, there's a bunch of what do you call it? Animated shorts that they've done. That are,
Yeah, they went the TF2 route. They did like Team Fortress 2 and put out a bunch of animated shorts and trusted the viewer to kind of put together the story themselves.
I let them down in a big way because I have no idea.
and they're actually pretty good.
Oh, I'm sure they are, but that's the thing.
Yeah,
like, to Rod's point, like a lot of people just completely ignore Overwatch. I'm one of those, and for 2, I'm going in fresh. You know.
Yeah.
No, but I've been playing the game literally since the first day of closed beta,
Yeah.
and I played the game 10 hours a day for like 3 years, and I do not know the story yet. But I'm not a normal gamer like that.
Right.
I mean, you never changed your avatar to some Overwatch logo.
That is very true. Very true.
I've actually been looking forward to talking a little bit more Quake with you. We kind of touched on the tip of the iceberg on which the Quake ship crashed a couple of years ago. Tell me from your perspective, we'll open with a broad question, but what the hell happened with Quake Champions? Because like I viewed this as a coin. On one side, you had its arguably strongest single player game in the 90s, which was Doom. And then Doom 2016 kind of scratched that itch. It had multiplayer. It wasn't terrible, but it's just kind of there. And then I thought, oh, Quake Champions will be the multiplayer. You'll get id goodness, single player, multiplayer, just different games. They're 2 biggest IPs. And now we have a game that barely anyone plays that is still in early access. It's been in early access for like 3 years. So what the hell?
Okay.
What the hell happened? What happened?
Oh God.
You know, esports, competitive gaming is a billion-dollar industry now, all over TV. You know, so many games are launched and released with a specific purpose of being huge on Twitch, whether it's Apex Legends or Valorant now. All of them have extremely healthy ecosystems. Counter-Strike is a 20-year-old game, just like Quake, and it hit its peak concurrent player base of over 1 million people, more than it ever has, more than CS 1.6 ever had in its history. And it showcases really the longevity of competitive gaming and these old school games. And while all of this is happening, my game, the game that really started competitive gaming and esports in the West and made this entire industry possible, has been totally fucking screwed over completely time and time again by id Software in Bethesda. It is truly remarkable how much they have fucked up the Quake franchise. It's almost like intentional how much they've screwed this fucking franchise up with how many times they have managed to fuck it up over the years. It's not just Quake Champions. They fucked up Quake 4. They fucked up Quake Live. They fucked up every single Quake in the last 10 to 12 years. It's utterly pathetic. And basically, what's ended up happening every single time, and most recently with Quake Champions, is that they had the A team on Doom. And don't get me wrong, that was the correct decision by Marty Stratton and the guys over there. Obviously, Doom was a fantastic game, an incredible game. It really brought id back to like the front of being or like a respected developer, because for a long time id was been in the dumps. Rage was fucking trash. Rage 2 was pretty much garbage too. And like they didn't know what the fuck they were doing over there. And for them to bring back Doom in such a way, and especially with Eternal recently, like they put back that studio to being like a world renowned fantastic studio. But while they were doing that, they licensed Quake out again to Saber Interactive. The same thing that happened with Quake 4, which was they were working on Doom 3 and they decided, oh, well, whatever, let's give this to Raven Software to make Quake 4. And Raven totally fucked up the game in so many goddamn ways. And they apparently didn't learn their fucking lesson. Tim Willits over there and was no longer there. And
Yeah,
I'm
not there anymore.
And I gotta say, I'm not really sad that he's gone. And
Nobody
Marty, who
should be, no.
This is all. I put all of this shit on Tim. I put it all on Todd beforehand, and I've yelled at Marty enough times as well. You guys fucked up. Like, I understand that you needed to bring back Doom, and you had other focuses, but Tim was responsible for Quake Champions, and it shouldn't be surprising. You know where Tim works now.
Mhm.
Saber Interactive.
Yeah,
just so happens to be the same company that he gave that fat fucking contract to make Quake Champions and to fuck up the whole game again. He probably got a fat contract himself moving over to Saber Interactive after all of this time. It was his responsibility to not make the same mistake that id Software made with Quake 4 in licensing out the game to another publisher and not keeping it in-house. id Software does have an incredible quality in terms of making their games in-house, as we've seen, and every time they license it out, it turns out to be absolutely garbage. Now, there are exceptions to this, like Wolfenstein, for example, the last two Wolfensteins. Those are really good. Like, those are really good, but there's a difference between licensing out a story single-player game and curating a multiplayer focused game, which needs to be like constantly updated and constantly supported for a long period of time. And Quake being a legendary game that it is, they should have learned the lessons from Quake 4's fuck up. And even Quake Live was all fucked up. I mean, John Carmack wanted to make Quake Live to prove that you could run a video game within a browser. But I think that was actually an incredible concept at the time, 2009. But they didn't support the game. There was no ranked matchmaking. There weren't fucking ladders. Like, you needed to pay. I paid id Software $250 for Quake Live just to play the game. It's not like I paid for like skins or anything. This shit doesn't fucking exist. I just pay them that much money to play the game. And they didn't take any suggestions. And after all that time, and after all the fuck ups that they had to screw up the Quake franchise, to license out the game again, for Saber to do such a god awful job with the game, like fucking terrible. Like, the game is so bad. Underneath the engine is trash. The visuals are trash. The sound design, fucking garbage. Like, all of the major things with the game are so bad. And
This is so cathartic. Keep going.
And like, they've updated it to now the game is like okay, I get, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore.
It took them 3 years to add deathmatch to the game, Rod.
Oh my god!
Like, it took them 3 years to make the game okay, and it doesn't matter anymore because all the players are gone. The scene is gone. The players hate the fucking game, besides the ones that are paid and under NDA that can't speak badly about the game, which they've also done. They've forced players to sign a contract to get money for the Quake Pro League, and they can never speak anything negatively or criticize the game at all on public social media,
Rod,
or in interviews or anything.
It's always a good sign when you reboot your esport while it's still in early access, right?
That shit isn't fucking real. The only reason it's still in quote unquote early access is because the game is dead. The game's fucking dead, and they will never like officially quote unquote launch the game.
Do you ever watch Quake Pro League?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've known these guys for so long. Like, I've been friends with DeHang and Rafa and Cypher and Cooler and Toxic and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've known these guys for like 15 years, or they're like my buddies. So of course I'm going to tune in to support them. And like, I gotta say, like, the most recent Quake Pro League finals was actually really great because the players make the game fantastic. It's still the classic Quake action. It's still like incredible like aim and timing and everything that makes me love Quake to begin with. That is all still there in this title, and the players can really make a shit fucking game extremely exciting. But like, that's why I tune in, support my friends, and to see some good to see some good action. The game itself is fucking bad. I cannot actually believe how much they fucked up. Tim, you fucked up so goddamn hard. Marty, I've tried reaching out to you. I know you are working on Doom. I know the focus is still on Doom. Doom is way bigger than Quake will ever be in terms of like the mainstream. Doom should be the focus, but please, Marty, if you're listening to this, which you're not going to anyway, you need to make this right. You need to make this right. I had dinner with you 13 years ago, literally telling you the same fucking shit as I am right now. And I cannot believe it's actually only gotten worse over a decade later. This falls on you. Tim is gone. Todd is gone. You're the only one left remaining over there from the early days. If you don't fix this shit, no one else will. And everyone is going to go play fucking Diabolical with eggs made by a guy who used to play your game to begin with. And him and his small DIY indie team has made a better fucking game that you have.
Yeah.
So please do something.
You know what? I'm
Wrong.
not a competitive player. I was among my friends. I was the best, but it's like a big fish, small pond situation. Asif and I kind of bonded in my interview over Quake and Nintendo. Blake played Quake back in the day. The first time I played Quake Champions, you and I talked about it. We wrote that like back and forth transcript conversation. I said, this feels like a Quake game that I think Quake players were like, but there are two problems. They feel like, to me, they grafted on hero classes because Overwatch was a thing. And the fact that you have to really know Quake systems to excel at that game, I thought would be a real turnoff to the, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of players who have jumped into esports since it became a thing, since Quake was last relevant. I mean, is that at all accurate? Did they start with kind of making a game for Quake players and not really anyone else?
It wasn't supposed to be an add-on for Quake Live.
It did start like
and
that.
Then just one thing that drove me nuts, because I played the beta of this garbage and like all that shit. Remember how the rocket spawn changed? And it changed the timing of the rocket jump in the game?
As far as like where it's yeah.
Like how up your own butt do you have to be to actually change that? Like you have Quake.
That's the
You've had Quake.
Touch.
It's sitting there.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly good game. You just have to make it look better, to Rod's point, which they didn't even do. And like, yeah, it's embarrassing. It's a game that Rod, how I knew the game was dead. The day that Deathmatch came out, I think it was last year, right? Because 2019, they shipped Deathmatch in their game. I tried to play a game. It took me 20 minutes to find someone else to play Deathmatch. And a Deathmatch in Quake is 8 people. It only filled 6 people.
In 20 minutes.
In 20 minutes. That's how I knew it was dead.
Like, somehow, ironically, I'm not so against the idea of classes and everything and the champion aspect. It, like, for a lot of the purists, it definitely it takes away a lot of the skill of the, and it makes things a lot different. But I actually enjoy, specifically for the movement, to have VQ3 and CPM and Quake World movement and Quake 2 movement all in the same game. So I actually think the idea of champions isn't so bad. The bigger problems are really the engine and the set. Like the core of the game is the thing that fucked it up more than anything. Playing the game caused frame drops. Playing the game caused you to fucking lag for no reason. Playing the game had hit detection problem. Playing the game had like the hitboxes were all fucked up. Like all of the core concepts of a video game are the reasons why the game was totally a failure from the begin with, and that no amount of fixes
played
later.
better. Like Quake Live played better in a lot of respects.
Quake Live, the game was really good because it was literally Quake.
Yeah.
It's not like they had to make a new game. It literally was Quake 3 ported onto your web browser. So the gameplay, they literally couldn't fuck it up because it was actually the same game.
Yeah.
So
they built the guy who made Quake Live. I'm like, Quake 3 was already a thing. The guy who
We peaked with
recorded
this,
it.
so let's just go. Let's just do this again.
So I'm kind of curious. Outside of Valorant, are there any games you've had your eye on lately, like new and upcoming, anything like that? Like stuff for the future?
I mean, I am. You talking to me, asking me as like the industry consultant person, or me as like the person that plays video?
Why don't we do A then B?
Why not both?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think in terms of the industry, I am looking heavily at Riot. We have talked about the fighting game, but they're the one that are doing the most in the competitive gaming space. Valorant obviously is here, and the fighting game is coming soon. So they're really like everything they're doing is something that I'm looking forward to. There's been a whole lot of noise about what Source 2 might do for Valve and what might do to CS:GO if like CS:GO Source 2 would be a whole reimagining of the game, or a new structure, or new visuals, new whatever. It could be a whole new era for Counter-Strike in Source 2 if it becomes a thing. I think Epic, with the amount of money that they have, and them buying out Rocket League, and them investing everything into Fortnite and creating new things over there, I'm really looking forward to see what Epic is going to be able to produce next with all the money that they've accustomed from everyone in the world. And that's kind of like where my head is are more at, because I don't really care about story game. I just don't. Like Nintendo, I grew up with it and it's really cool. I'm always gonna like playing Mario, but I don't care really. Like so, like I played as a kid, I played a ton of Zelda, played a ton of Mario. Like that was really like where I grew up as a kid. But I have had, and my tastes have changed a little bit, like within the last, I don't know, few months. Like I'm actually getting a little bit burnt out on my 15-year long of playing competitive multiplayer games and yelling at people on the internet. Like I don't know how many more arguments I can get in a ranked matchmaking game where I'm feeling like I need to go back to single player story games that I could just relax and chill the fuck out while playing a video game. But on like much more of a personal level, like I'm playing Valorant now, like 5 hours a day or so. Like I'm playing like a lot of Valorant, and I've been playing like a lot of Counter-Strike and a lot of Overwatch previously. Like I had been waiting for Valorant for a long time. I don't really foresee anything taking up my time personally in that way, just because this is the game that is going to be the next big thing, and this is the game that has all the attention on it. I want to be competent in terms of playing the game. I mean, something that I've held a lot of pride in, and that I like to speak out about, is that okay? I'm always very open in terms of not gatekeeping, because I think that is a problem within the esports community. We have a lot of elitists within the community that like to gatekeep their game and to talk shit to people that are just trying the game for the first time, or that are trying to get esports for the first time. And I've always been one where, look, we need to make our industry bigger. We want to try to bring people in. If someone is learning, help them. If someone is trying to get to know a game, try to teach them, try to give them information, and try to make it as welcoming as possible to people from all races and all genders and all backgrounds to get into our space. And that's the only way that we're really going to grow as an industry and to be like good people overall. However, I am actually an elitist asshole with my colleagues and with my peers. I am extremely hard on them, because I feel like if my peers are going to be giving shit to random newbies in terms of like trying to get into the industry, I'm going to fucking have my foot so far up their ass when my peers are trying to work in a different game. And I've used Overwatch and now Valorant as a really good example. All throughout the years of Overwatch becoming a very big esport, I saw casters in my industry from other games move into Overwatch as all of the money was moving into Overwatch. And look, I have nothing again. I know video games is a hard industry. I know the media industry is really hard and no one's making any money. People have to eat. People have to make a living. People have to pay their rent and, and live their lives. And I understand this. I'm also not about defending billion-dollar corporations. Like, if they want to get a bunch of money from Riot and Blizzard, be my fucking guest. Like, I don't have.
Someone think of Tencent, Rod.
Yeah, I'm not shedding a tear for Tencent or
Please,
Blizzard or
Rod,
Ubisoft.
think of the board of directors of Tencent.
However, I've seen, especially with Overwatch and now with Valorant, people that either don't play first-person shooters or people that don't even really care, that didn't care about Overwatch before Blizzard started paying talent a lot of money. Oh, now they want to be an analyst for Overwatch. Now they want to be a caster for Overwatch. Now they want to be an analyst for Valorant or a caster from Valorant, and they don't know what the fuck they are talking about. So I am really hard on my peers, and I like to take pride in that when I am personally talking about like these two games, for example, I'm not just talking about it as an industry analyst. I am talking about it as a player. I'm talking about it as someone who scrimmed and who played Overwatch at a semi-professional level. Like, I've beaten Overwatch players in a tournament. I was on the team that got signed to FaZe. I got kicked out for what is now like one of the best support players in all of Overwatch League. Like, I've spent several days and years scrimming Overwatch. I hit Immortal in Valorant before the beta ended. Like, I pride myself on being good at the video game, so I know what I'm talking about when I talk about the fucking video game, unlike other people in my industry that are only doing it seemingly for money or seemingly because they want to get into the space. And like, that is why I spend so much time playing the games. Like, I enjoy playing the games, but I want to know what I'm talking about as a player and not be a fake motherfucker like a lot of people in our space are.
I guess that we kind of talked about this before we went live, but on that note, all week we've seen, especially on Twitter, white creators. I saw, as an author, I've seen a lot of white authors talk about what they tweet, what advances they made per book, and then over today, maybe some of yesterday, gaming journalists talking about what they make. As someone who kind of consults, you're in that space, do you have any thoughts on the numbers we're seeing there?
Yeah, everybody's getting fucked. that is my overall impression, is that everyone.
Wait, does that mean CBS Interactive is also getting fucked?
No, they're probably doing pretty well.
Okay, so it's not everybody.
I mean,
I am working for them.
The media industry, as you all guys know, is really hard. Like, not just in terms of journalists, but especially if you're a startup media organization, there is a very likely chance you are going to die in a year or two. I've seen so many esports media startups launch and die within the last few years that I can't even count the number of them.
Yeah.
And so, like, I understand, even as an entrepreneur, trying to start something right now or even lately is a very difficult position, and that if you need to pay extremely high salaries to your journalists and your talent, there's just no way you're going to be able to fund yourself going forward. But most of the media organizations in our space are backed by like multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar corporations like CBS Interactive and GameSpot or IGN or like ESPN or whatever, and my sympathy level goes way down for those people. So when I'm looking at like the media, the sheet of journalists who are making like $30,000-$40,000 from a huge ass media website, yeah, they're getting absolutely screwed over by these media companies. I mean, I don't mind talking about my own salaries. I did post it on Twitter to a reply to one journalist, and it had actually a bunch of people freak the fuck out at how much I was making. I mean, when I was at GameSpot, I was making $90K, and I'm pretty sure, looking back on it, I might have been one of the highest paid people of the entire website. And when I went to ESPN in 2016, I made $125K plus signing bonus. And I'm gonna fight for me. I am gonna fight for how much I believe I am worth and that I deserve, and I'm not going to back down when I'm talking to these big corporations. I mean, I make it very clear that in the negotiation process that I know how this shit works. I know that they're going to launch an esports vertical or a gaming vertical based off of me coming to them, and they're going to sell that shit to a major sponsorship for $1 million, and then they're going to keep all that shit. And then after they sell that sponsorship, they're going to look good to their boss, and they're going to get a big fucking fat raise, and they're going to get a big bonus. So you better pay me, motherfucker. And that you paying me 125K, which is insane to most people in the industry, and is probably more money than almost every other gaming journalist in the entire industry. I think I am making even more than Jason Schreier did. I made more than Jason Schreier did at Kotaku, and I might have made more than he does now at Bloomberg. He didn't say how much he.
Not at Bloomberg, no.
No, he didn't say how much he makes in Bloomberg. And like, I understand that is really insane for some people, but like, I know I've been around the internet for a very long time. I know how startups work. I know how the internet works. I know how the advertising industry works. I know how I have a good amount of knowledge of how ad rev works, and how a good amount of knowledge of ad networks. I know a good portion of how the internet is built and how companies make money. And I make that very clear in my negotiations and when I'm discussing things, that I'm not going to take less than what I feel like I'm valued for, and that what I'm signing to, and that I am building with the company that I am going to, because I feel like they are going to be making way more money than what I'm going to be making. So I really feel like more journalists and media people in this space need to be more confident in themselves, and need to be more confident that they should be asking for more money. Do not let these motherfuckers lowball you. I've also never had help from a union. I've never been unionized. I've never had a union fight for me. I've never had a union bump up my pay, which is what a majority of the journalists that I've seen. I've done all negotiations by myself, no agent, no union, no nothing. And I've made sure that it's been clear with the hiring manager that they need to fucking pay me what I believe I'm worth. And that I feel like more people should be more confident in the way that they approach these negotiations. Don't let them lowball you. Don't let them make you think that you are not deserving of a higher salary. And don't let these media companies that are not startups. I mean, look, there is more leeway to startups because obviously the media industry is hard and companies are shutting down entirely. But if you're going to sign to IGN or GameSpot or ESPN Esports or do something like WAPO or whatever, yeah, make them fucking pay you a lot of money. Otherwise, they can go suck your dick. I mean, they fuck off. Pay me a lot of money or fuck off. So I don't know. I've kind of had that. I've tried to have that approach for a long time, and more people should stick up for themselves.
So a question from the audience is, how much does social media reach help you in those negotiations?
I mean,
at all?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, I have intentionally put quite a lot of effort on building my Twitter. I even have a decent Facebook following and verification. I for many years before doing writing, I was a social media consultant. I was a power digger. I was one of the top people on Dig. I have over 100,000 karma on Reddit. I know how to use Reddit quite effectively and get my stories on. I've had hundreds of stories on the front page of Reddit without breaking the rules, which is a long fucking story. But my knowledge of social media and my knowledge of the algorithms of social media has definitely I have spent so many years in not just social media, but marketing, forum marketing, and how to format your I've spent as much time in reporting on stories and writing as knowing that if I write a really good story and no one reads it, it doesn't fucking matter. So I've made sure to always know how to promote my content as much as it is to create the content, and that really has helped me, I think, quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that's kind of how the world works now, especially man, if you have a good solid Twitter following, you know,
But
the stuff
Rod,
you can get away
you know
with.
what I find refreshing about following you on Twitter, especially during this election and now during the Black Lives Matter movement, is you're super vocal about whatever the hell you want to be vocal about. You don't seem to censor yourself or worry about any potential relationships being damaged by what you tweet. And I think that's why people follow you. Can you speak to your no fucks given attitude and where that came from?
I mean, I've always been this way. I mean, currently I don't have a full-time so I don't have a boss telling me I shouldn't do this. I mean, for example, when I was at ESPN, the very first day I was there, they made me delete a tweet saying fuck cancer. and they told me I could never curse again on social media. So like there are like if I was still working for ESPN, I probably would not be allowed to tweet half the things that I mean, Disney is very like unique in that situation because fucking Mr. Mouse over there doesn't want you saying shit.
Yeah.
So like okay, so like maybe that's unique. If I was working for a different media company, maybe they wouldn't care. And in my negotiations now, because I am talking to a few different media companies about doing some stuff, I have been very clear, you're gonna let me tweet whatever I want. And that even if I moved over to a full-time position, my Twitter feed and like how I'm talking on the show wouldn't change. I would still be cursing a lot. I would still be saying exactly what I think. I don't want to shy away from how I feel about things. And like in general, I do think for a lot of reasons, you know, given my platform and given that people for some reason listen to things that I say, I do feel a responsibility to talk about cultural and societal issues, especially when there is some relation to our industry. I feel like way too many times our peers don't want to talk about this type of stuff because they are fearful of losing followers or losing fans or losing people that are going to support you. Like I've lost 3,000 followers in the last week, but I don't fucking give a shit.
Yeah,
Not only do I not give a shit, like I'm talking shit to them like all the time, like on Twitter or DMs or Twitch chat or whatever. I mean, like I don't give a shit that I'm losing a bunch of racist fucking assholes of my following.
Do you really want those followers to begin with? You know, like it's not worth selling yourself out like that ever. I feel.
No, and a lot of people are like too afraid of pushing back and are too afraid of speaking out about the important things like that are going on in the world that are bigger than video games. And I feel like, you know, I mean, I'm not just doing it because of my platform. I actually like care about this shit. So I'm going to speak my mind on these types of things, especially, you know, given everything going on. There's no greater of a moment than now to speak up. Like if you're not speaking up now, you're just a fucking bitch or you're a coward. Or you're a race or you're a closet Nazi. one of the two. And you could easily see who those people are. I mean, there is a small subsection of people who just don't know how to talk about this stuff publicly or who don't feel comfortable talking about it. And I'm not saying that everyone should be forced to talk about everything, and especially if you don't have like a big platform, it's not like needed that you do so. But at least for me, I really feel compelled to speak up about these things and to hold other major influencers and companies in our space accountable for how like these things are going.
Yeah, you've been pretty vocal about Epic Games in the past week and how they really haven't done much with their, you know, donations, I guess, and you know, compared to a lot of other companies.
I will say after I made that Epic Games co-founder called. Now, I haven't had a talk with him, but it was about this. So I do know that they are watching. These different companies are watching. I got a call from a high-level Epic Games person about this, and I got a DM each from Blizzard and from Riot Games, from executives there as well, who are trying to talk to me about how they view all of this. I've tried to explain to each of them, I'm not trying to single any of them out. I'm trying to, keep them all honest on an equal playing field. And that, if I'm going to point out Blizzard's hypocrisy, I'm just being honest here. I'm going to try to point out Riot's hypocrisy. I'm just being honest here. If I'm going to try to point out Epic doing jack shit, I'm just being honest here. I can say the conversations that I have had have been pretty cordial. They're not like mad or anything. They're more trying to get their side out. And then I'm just trying to explain to them how I feel, and that they need to, it's not me who they need to try to convince or something. Like, they need to convince the people. I am just a one person giving my thoughts to what is generally the larger community, but they need to do more than just reach out to me to tell me what they think.
That's interesting. No, and you kind of have brought up the Blitzchung and the anti free speech I guess situation that occurred last year with Blizzard, and the hypocrisy of them kind of tweeting out Black Lives Matter. I had a hearty lull when I saw Riot Games do that because of what's going on in China, with how the Chinese Communist Party treats people in Hong Kong, but also how they've treated Muslims in the western part of their country with a concentration camp there. It seems like something that big tech frequently ignores, that we're dealing with the Chinese Communist Party in a lot of these cases. Like, the board of Tencent is largely Communist Party members over there, and that it's a massive company now, right? It's like one of the largest companies in the world. And they own they own either all or a lot of companies that are huge in the esports realm, right? Like, they have it's almost disproportionately invested in esports compared to most other companies. Wouldn't you agree that Tencent, kind of compared to most other companies, are?
I mean, it's insane. They own 100% of Riot. They own 48% of Epic. They own 10% of Ubisoft, 5% of Activision Blizzard, and a bunch of portion. They own so many things that are either directly or indirectly related to the competitive gaming space that, it is definitely concerning, and it really showcases, I think a big problem within the gaming world and the world more at large is that for a lot of people, when they see these statements from brands on social media who black out their social media with icons or write the most generic fucking statement, it really looks financially motivated. Whenever they're writing a statement, it's not because they truly are caring about the movement or human rights or whatever is right. They're caring about the shareholders. They're caring about the investors. They're caring about their bottom line. And I know they're a company. This is what they are legally obliged to do, is to make the most amount of money as possible. But it is so transparently bullshit that everyone can see through this, especially in the current day of social media, where Gen Z is more knowledgeable and up to date about how the world works than any other generation ever, and they easily see through brands that are trying to push out these statements when all of their actions show that they are contradictory, or they're only doing it because of their bottom line. And that is one of the major problems that we've had definitely within the gaming space.
Do you think that they're just going to continue to buy up everything?
Yeah, they keep doing so. Each week or month, they are either buying a movie studio or a new game studio. It's not just esports; it's mobile games, traditional games, tabletop games. They're It's just insane, like how much power Tencent really has right now.
And by the extension, the Communist Party of China, because so much censorship is going to be kind of done at the hand of Tencent companies. I think that's kind of, there's going to be an effect to video games, and how they're developed and
Like,
how esports operate.
Are you talking like similar to how like China's affected the film industry now?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Games being built
with a
with China in
China
mind. Not necessarily pro China, but things that are, things that may be necessarily allowed in an American game that are not going to be in games that are approved in China. My concern is just video games from an art form standpoint, but also esports from an ability, to have transformative people like Sonic Fox or whoever. I worry that the larger that Tencent becomes, the more influence it's going to have on that, and that could be bad for the industry.
I feel like it'll also affect like the presentation of certain events. Like you're not going to have that Sonic Fox moment where he's only, rooting for Bernie Sanders. You're not going to have those Blitzchung moments. You're not going to have anything like that. It's going to be controlled to a much larger degree.
I mean, I think people saying things in the heat of the moment, like spontaneously, they're gonna have a hard time controlling something like that at a U.S. tournament.
But you've seen how they react. So
I will say that I think because of everything that has happened in the last year or two, especially with Blitzchung and with the NBA, that there is now so much international pushback on the Chinese government and Chinese censorship, and from the community, or people being extremely pissed off and angry about how the Chinese government is impacting Hong Kong, or how the Chinese government is treating the Uyghurs in that country, or even how the Chinese government is treating the video game culture, that I don't necessarily know if it might be okay, because now if an American publisher or developer does something like that again, there has already been so much pushback at Blizzard on Blitzchung. What do you think would happen if they fucking told another player not to say something? I cannot even imagine that happening now, because the amount of backlash would be 10 times as much as it would before. So I think maybe, even though Tencent has a ton of power, there's also been a ton of pushback and knowledge about what's happening, and that American companies are scared now of pissing off the American user base, where it might balance itself out and not trying to appeal too much to the Chinese audience.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm a stock trader, Rod. I look at a lot of investments, and every day I look at Tencent stock chart, and I'm just like, good God. There's competition here, at least. There may be only 3 companies in the media space in the US that matter anymore, right? Facebook, Google, and Amazon, or whatever, but at least there's 3. Over there, it's just Tencent. So when I see a monolith like that, I'm always kind of worried.
They got NetEase too.
Oh, that's
they got two.
Okay, Coke and Pepsi. Yeah, that's right. Okay, they both are made out of high fructose corn syrup. So
true.
No,
the Mexican stuff.
Yeah, they use sugar in Mexico. Coke, right? Pretty special.
They use real Coke.
Use actual cocaine. Just actual cocaine.
Something in there.
Really put a zip in your step.
Damn. So, Rod, you've been up. You live in Manhattan, right, or in New York City?
Mm-hmm.
How have you been doing during this whole shutdown and the reopen? Or you're not reopened yet, right?
No, we are. We're officially reopened.
Oh, geez. How's that been going?
I mean, the city is officially reopened, but nothing's really reopened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, concerts, there's no venues, there's nothing really happening.
Yeah.
I would say, given the past week, NYPD has been worse on the city than the coronavirus has.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
In terms of getting beaten down, people are getting beaten down by literally batons more than the coronavirus.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. And, I think New York City did a better job of flattening the curve than most places in the U.S.
Yeah, and flattening protesters too.
With vehicles. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, with multiple types of instruments.
I've seen cops in New York drive into crowds of people.
Absolutely. I've seen that.
We had a girl here in Ohio, in Columbus. She had asthma, got tear gassed, and died.
I saw that.
So yeah, it's definitely insane out there. I have to agree with you that the police are probably a little more dangerous than COVID-19 right now. But like, for your job, did it affect you very much, or do you work remotely a lot anyway? Like, I know you don't have like a full-time job right now, but for what you do.
No, my life literally hasn't changed at all. Like, I practice social distancing as a lifestyle. Okay, that's how I live my life, and that I don't go out. I play video games. I work all the time inside. I'm on the internet like 20 hours a day. I sleep 2 hours a night. And during the shutdown, nothing has really changed so much. So honestly, no, it's been rather the same. I don't have a social life. It's fine.
I mean, you're a hardworking dude. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at there. And I'm kind of curious, we touched on it a little bit, but during this period, all these video game stocks hit like all-time highs. I don't know if you saw the NASDAQ hit 10,000 today.
Mm-hmm.
Tech stocks are doing really well.
Very normal. 4 million people out of work, and the stock market's higher than ever. Extremely normal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is like, there's a weird cognitive dissonance happening right now between asset prices because of monetary policy and expectations of video game companies. Do you think that, like, when you look at Activision or you look at EA, are they getting ahead of their skis? Like, do you think that because like the pandemic may have pulled forward demand for these stocks? Because it really, like, when you see all these stocks hitting all-time highs and not necessarily showing these numbers, like Take-Two Interactive, for instance, they don't have a GTA coming this year, So it's like I feel like the market's really dumb, and one of the dumb plays was, well, people are playing video games, let's buy those stocks. So I'm just curious what you think of the run that they've had, and if you're.
I would dump those stocks as we enter normalcy. I mean, obviously, it is shown that because everyone is inside all the time, people are playing games more than ever before, and people are purchasing in-game items and spending all types of time on games, but that is not sustainable. Not only is that not sustainable, there's just too many video games. Like, the video game industry as a whole is doing incredible, but the amount of competition that is out there is just so great that no one is going to be able to sustain the numbers that they are right now, just due to people going back to normal, and that there just being so many things to do and to keep people's attention.
Yeah, one thing, like, the one company that I'm baffled by is Activision Blizzard, because you would think by now they would have ruined COD like they did Tony Hawk.
Oh man.
You know what I mean, Rod? Like, how have they not? That's like, there's two franchises out there. There's Madden and there's COD, right? And those two people buy every year, regardless of how good or bad they are. It's just fascinating that COD, like, because if COD faltered like World of Warcraft did, I think Activision would be a huge sell, right? Why do you think people keep playing COD? Why do you think? Do you think that Warzone was the right pivot for them?
I mean, hell yes, it was the extremely right pivot. I mean, Activision Blizzard is lucky that they still have Infinity Ward and Treyarch as their top two developers, and both of them have shown to be extremely competent in knowing what. So it's not even really Activision Blizzard doing anything.
Yeah, that's right.
It's Treyarch and Infinity Ward coming through year after year to produce pretty solid installments. But yeah, there's been a bunch of problems over time, and Call of Duty has issues, but they've made like really either good campaigns or zombies or the multiplayer. And now with Warzone has been such a huge hit. I mean,
Yeah.
Warzone has actually almost been a bigger hit than Valorant's launch has been in terms of like online viewership and like streamers
Concurrent
playing
players,
the game.
yeah.
Yeah, all that other shit. So really, Activision Blizzard has done, not Activision Blizzard, but like the individual developers have done a really great job of keeping Call of Duty up to date. Also, at the same time, the multiplayer fan base for Call of Duty is always going to be there to support that game.
Yeah.
So no matter, even if they release a shit ass Call of Duty, that entire YouTuber, streamer, and competitive esport player base is going to come and play that.
So that seems like a case for Activision Blizzard being a buy. That, like, you know, you have Bobby Kotick that can hit up his billionaire buddies to buy $30 million tax shelters, you know, at Overwatch League. And then you have this game that pretty much, no matter how crappy it is, people will still buy it. Like, it seems out of all of them, and then you have Blizzard as a kicker. You have Overwatch League and like Overwatch and everything they're doing over there. It seems like Activision Blizzard, out of those three, if you look at the big three third parties, Take-Two, EA, seems like Activision Blizzard's best position going into this next generation. I just think it's weird that normally going into a new generation, that would be a good time to buy third-party stocks, but they've all run. Like everything, because of, you know, there's, you know, I think Jim Cramer calls them COVID-19 stocks. Like there's like a cult of these are the stocks that do well in the pandemic, and these are the stocks that do well in a reopening. And I think video games kind of sit at both of those places. But yeah, I guess, you know, I there's like companies out there that I may not like how they operate, but you have to just look at Activision Blizzard and be like, damn, they're doing right by their shareholders, at least, Rod.
Oh yeah, that's we're all thinking about the shareholder.
Yeah, right. That's really what we worry
that's
about.
most important.
That is, at the end of the day, in capitalist America, neo-socialist corporatism, yeah, that's what we care about. You remember, you know, this is, I guess, a little off topic, Rob, but you remember when Bernie Sanders was running for president? It was a great few months in history. And he was talking about healthcare for all, Medicare for all. And a frequent refrain from his fellow Democrats debating him were, how are you going to pay for it, Bernie? We have a money printer. And it seems like we had infinite money to print in the event of this. So I feel like that argument should be moot now, but it probably isn't.
No, we have money to pay for everything except for healthcare.
Yeah, right. During a pandemic.
Yeah, well, not like we would need it.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm really glad. I'm glad Rod came by to the Shack News Twitch channel. This was a huge treat today, Rod. We really appreciate you taking the time out.
Yeah, this is fun. I had a good time.
Nice. You know, you mentioned, like, I'm kind of curious. No one's asked this yet. Where did you get your handle?
I was 11 and I thought it was cool. I wanted to be badass on the internet. My original name was Rod Gamer, and that's dumb. So I wanted to be cool online, and I thought to myself, what's like menacing and like evil or whatever? And I thought about how, you know, Death has a scythe.
Yeah.
And he kills people by slashing them. And that is how I thought of it. and at 12 years old, I made my name, but because most of the names were already taken on BattleNet, I had a $sign as the S original. So for like 10 years, I was known as Slasher with a $sign in.
So Kesha stole that from you, is what you're saying.
Yes. Thank you. Finally, someone understands.
We finally got to the bottom of this whole Kesha Slasher thing.
Did you change it because of Kesha? Did you get rid of the $sign after Kesha became popular?
No. I got rid of it before. See, I'm a trend center. Okay.
So once it's trending, you're on to the next thing. You're like, instead of using symbols as letters, I use letters as letters now.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly.
So Rod, we got the PS5 reveal tomorrow. Do you have the list of games coming out for everybody?
I could not care less.
Oh, wow. So wait, you could go out there and use your super leaky boy powers to get the list, but you choose not to?
Exactly. Mhm.
Wow. You're the hero he's the hero we deserve.
Mhm.
Just his apathy is leading to him not leaking the PS5 launch titles.
Spoilers.
Yep. I
PS5
just really do not care about anything that happens tomorrow. I mean, I'm gonna tune in and I'm sure it'll be cool or something, maybe. I don't know.
I'm kind of with you. I don't know.
That's fair. No, I understand the apathy. And also, like you said, you're not here to have fun. You're here to just do your job, report the news, break
I'm
things.
just not a PlayStation. I've been using PC as my main system for so long. And then if it wasn't PC, I'd probably be a Nintendo.
Yeah,
guy.
PC and Switch is such a good combo right now.
Like anything that's on the Xbox or PlayStation, I'm probably going to be able to play on. Like, and especially with the current state of the world with crossplay and with both Sony and Microsoft trying to be, like the way that they envision their consoles is to make their games also for PC to push the platform while on PC. You don't even need PlayStation anymore. Like the amount of PlayStation exclusives is so slim now. I mean, you see all the fanboys raging whenever what fucking game just got what game just got announced for PC like a few weeks ago, and every PlayStation fan in the world lost their mind.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Yes. Like everyone's like, I'm never supporting PlayStation ever again. Never supporting them ever again. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
We're also getting Death Stranding on PC later this year.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Whoa.
There's no need. You don't even need to buy a PlayStation or Xbox anymore. It'll come to PC.
Yeah, that's a
Halo on
valid
PC.
point. Yeah,
Just depends on how immediately you want to play something.
With the backlog that I have, it's not. I'm in no rush.
I mean, I play one game 10 hours a day. I am not the target person that needs to play the game. And any game that I need to play immediately is a PC game. There's no console game that I need day one. There hasn't been for a very long time. Except for like Smash or whatever.
Yeah, like Nintendo first party titles, like you're saying. Like there's a couple.
Sure.
Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Smash.
Yeah, really, it's really all Nintendo first party time.
You're speaking my language,
you
Rob.
need that childhood nostalgia injection stat.
And the games are fucking amazing. Like somehow they made the best Zelda of all time, and it's the newest one. And every Mario that they launch is like incredible. Nintendo is really still the gold standard.
And Smash is offline one of my favorite.
Yeah, Smash this is probably the best Smash. Maybe besides Melee to a lot of people, but this is probably their best Smash ever.
Yeah, man, the Smash scene. Even within the FGC, the Smash scene's really been hit hard. We've been doing a podcast with a lot of the folks from the scene, both Melee and Ultimate players, because that you were talking about earlier. A lot of these grassroots events, they're dependent on entry fees, all these things to help fund the whole scene, because Nintendo isn't out there, with anything. So we're trying to do our best to help out the scene. We were planning some events this year. Clearly not going to happen. Have you had any leaks? Did anyone tell you when coronavirus is going to be gone, Rod? Do you have any info on that?
I'm hearing never.
Okay. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm hearing they're going to remaster coronavirus next year.
True.
HD remaster COVID.
I hear that got moved up.
COVID 20.
Yeah, COVID 20.
It got moved up to November.
Yep. Well, you got to get those. It's a quarter-4 release.
You need the season pass to get that, though.
I hear they're gonna patch in crossplay.
Oh, well, I hope.
Well, lucky for the Smash players. I mean, they can always pivot to Mario Kart.
That's what a lot of them have been streaming. We've been doing that.
Mario Kart players.
Yeah. But hey, Rod,
which hey, good on them for getting an esports scene going.
I mean, people know where to find you at Slasher on Twitter, and I guess you have a Facebook page too.
No, fuck that. I mean, yeah, but no, don't do that.
I tried so hard to get Rod on the show. I actually DM'd him on Twitter, on Facebook.
Do what you got to do.
I don't know if he saw it. You probably didn't.
I did not.
I didn't send you. I sent you like 20 pictures of my dog on Twitter though, and that worked.
Yeah, that did work, honestly.
So never give up, folks. That's the message. And
really, if you want me to do something, send me pictures of your dog. If you don't have a dog, well,
yeah, screw you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can make it happen.
So like when Fox News wanted you on, they just sent you a picture of like Laura Ingram's dog.
Oh yeah, that's what entices me. Laura Ingram's dog.
I have one question to ask. Did you get to see what Tucker Carlson's dog looked like? And was it wearing a bow tie?
I wasn't sure. I had no interest in seeing what Tucker Carlson's dog. I unfortunately had to meet Brian Kilmeade for a second.
We're so sorry.
I know. I felt really bad too. I didn't want to tell him to go fuck himself in person, but trying to keep it cordial.
Yeah, that's really tough.
Right.
Like it's different when you watch him on TV and you're on Twitter and you talk about how much of a piece of shit Tucker Carlson is, and then when he's right in front of you, like I don't mind doing it. I'm not a bitch or anything, but I'm trying to keep good relationship. Because when I go on Fox News, I like to criticize Fox News while I'm on Fox News. That's kind of how I go about it.
You really do, man. It's hilarious. I love it. You criticize the media a lot when you're dealing with mainstream media.
Well, I made sure to the second to last time I went on, I spoke about how Fox News is hip during my segment live on Fox News. And then when I came back, the producer was like, "Hey, can you not do that again?" So I know that they knew that I did that because I got a talking to.
The producers are probably the only ones that realize that it's not like it'll be hard to slip anything past Kilmeade.
Very, very true.
And does anyone else have any last questions for Rod before we let him go? He's been so gracious with his time.
I would say that like Rod, I saw Rod go on a rant a couple years ago about of not taking advantage of Team Fortress and putting that into a big esport, and I just wanted to say I agree with you, man. I miss TF2.
Yeah, well, Gabe doesn't even know two of his sons exist.
He only cares about Dota 2.
Yeah, like he adopted a new son, which is great. Very good for him. He gave this kid a home, a great family, an incredible upbringing. But his two children from birth, he just kind of forgot about. He hasn't called them. He went out for cigarettes 15 years ago, hasn't come back, hasn't spoken, doesn't pay attention, doesn't call them on their birthday ever.
What if they replace the 8 classes in TF2 with just 8 different knives?
Gabe would do that.
Meanwhile, I can't believe they're bothering with Artifact again.
And once again,
I guess
amazing job reporting on the Artifact. Like when you were reporting on the Artifact channel turning into a cesspool of porn and piracy, that was one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite things you've ever done, Rod.
That was the best of your Twitter feed, man.
Some of those, I watched all of Breaking Bad in the Artifact channel. It was a special time on Twitter.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Well, thanks very much for coming on, Rod.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You were the self-proclaimed #1 esports consultant in the world, but now you are. Now that you've been on Wide World of Electronic Sports, that solidifies it.
That's it.
I think Asus called you Esports Ichiban at one point.
I said Ichiban esports correspondent. I've called you that several times in copy. I've called you the Adrian Wojnarowski of esports. I try to be creative when we source you, Rod.
Thank you. I'm honored.
But yeah, no, like I said, we appreciate what you do. I find you fascinating. I find your no fucks given attitude refreshing, and we appreciate what you do. It's like, there's no animosity from Shack News towards Slasher, and hell, someday we should all get together and play Quake 2.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll fucking shit on you. No problem.
Whenever QuakeCon comes back.
Yeah, I mean, QuakeCon's not happening this year, but we'll probably do something. But yeah, maybe I'll hit you up for that, Rod. We're gonna do some sort of QuakeCon replacement later this summer.
I mean, it's all right. There's no Quake at QuakeCon anyway.
Hey, they're the last 2 years, Rod. Shack News threw tournaments that were id Software focused.
Asif, what does your hat say?
DoomCon.
Yeah, there it is.
I know. It's been they pivoted to DoomCon. That shows you where they are. I've just been wearing it because I feel like this entire year is DoomCon.
It is.
We never left DoomCon.
It just kept going.
It just dissipated all around us.
Lives on in our hearts, man.
It diffused.
Yeah, it was great earlier this year when Rod was taking all these esports players on in Diabolical and just wrecking them for us olds. That was another great moment.
We really need to get that game. I need to see what the fuss is about with that.
It's everything Rod said.
Yeah, you should.
Better than anything id Software's done outside of the Doom franchise in a while.
Yeah, it's true.
But awesome. Well, this was a very special episode. I just want to thank Rod Slasher Breslau once again. Follow him on. You're already following him on Twitter. He's world famous.
Mm-hmm.
For slumming it at Shack News. Thank you so much, buddy, and making Shack News E4 such a. It made day 2 even more special. To be honest with you.
I'm jelly. I don't get to talk with Ice-T though.
Next time.
Yeah. Of course.
Because we're already working on the next one. Awesome. Well, I don't know what's coming up, Krabs. Are we doing something?
Wreckfest, right?
We have a Wreckfest Shack battle happening in an hour, but I think we're gonna run. Oh yeah, we're gonna do a rerun of our Mike Tyson interview. So check that out, everybody.
All right.
All right. Well, everyone have a great night. This has been the Wide World of Esports. And we'll catch you here in a few more moments with the Mike Tyson interview.
Sweet.